Come back to my classes. So we'll go for the next topic. So till now we have studied completely about the design patterns, introduction to the design patterns, definitions of the design pattern, the concepts of design pattern, everything we have studied till now. So now we are entering to a object oriented development, means we are going to focus on software architecture designs. So again we'll switch to a design patterns in third module. So in a second module he is going to switch to a software architecture part. So in this one first module only he is going to take up a introduction to the software architecture, that is he is going to use the object oriented concepts. Okay. So again we will come back to the design pattern concepts in a third module. Okay. So now we will see this topic. So that is what is object oriented development. So it is a completely basic topic. So that is means we need to know the definition of what is object oriented programming languages. So you all know, so what is a class, what is an object, so how we are going to implement the program or a software using the classes and the objects, and you already know, so object oriented programming language is more efficient when compared to the procedure oriented languages C, right. So C++ your object oriented language. So keeping that in mind, so I have taken a first key point as a software. So in order to design any software, so what you need to do means you need to write a program. So program consists of what? Consists of classes and the object with respect to the object oriented development. So if you are going to do with the procedure oriented, that consists of procedures, but now I am going to focus on object oriented. So that's why what I am stressing. So it is going to consist of classes and the objects. So classes and the objects. So n numbers of objects and n numbers of classes will give rise to a program, and that collections of program will give to a software, right. So the software is basically a collections of classes and the objects. So that is a bit means a definition. So what is a object, what is a class? So class object is going to be an entity, it is going to represent an entity, right. So if you give a meaningful class names and if you create the entities according to that, so it will be helpful to create a good software, right. So that is a basic definition, classes and the object. So then coming to the bit higher level to the topic, so that is a data abstraction. So it is going to provide you the data abstraction in object oriented environment. Abstraction means it is going to have the complete different modules. So it contains the one procedure or a one module in one format, and the separate data and the procedure will be maintained for that module, and for another module it contains the data and procedure for the that particular module. So this complete programming will be divided into a modules. So okay, so altogether those modules will be combined together and it is going to be worked out. So here in the data abstraction part, it is going to have the modules that is clubbed together. So each and every modules consist of their own procedures, and it is going to act upon the data provided. So it is going to provide you the data abstraction. And coming to the another few topic, that is the output from each step. So here in the object oriented programming, when you are writing a program, so each and every step of a program gives rise to the output. So that leads to a result. So that leads to a result always. So means the feature of a object oriented, I am telling actually. So it is going to be the output. We can expect the output from each and every step. So since it is object oriented, it is completely about the modules. So every modules are interconnected to each other with the interfaces. So that is why I have taken 3 key points. So that is it is going to be, the first one is a software. So software consists of classes and the objects, and class is nothing but a collection of the object. It contains the variables, it contains the procedures, and the object is nothing but an entity. So where it is going to act upon a procedures using the data provided, and it is going to respond to a client request. So those things you know. And the data abstraction, the object oriented programming will provide you the data abstraction, where it is going to divide the procedures and the data into a different modules, and then you can expect the output in each and every steps of a programming. So that is the features, key concepts of this particular object oriented development. So moving forward, you have got in depth what are all the key concepts of object oriented design. Okay, so this is an important topic, so you can expect for an exam. So where it is going to focus on the completely key features of the object oriented programming. The very first one, central role of a object. So object is nothing but a basic unit. So it is a basic unit in order to design a object oriented programming. So you should have objects, right? So it is going to play a central role. So means using an object you can perform n numbers of activity. There will be the same object can represent with a different representations. So each and every object will be assigned with their own features, their own functionality, their own speciality. So everything was designed with their own different specifications. So you cannot tell that object is having the one single design. It is having multiple design, multiple representations. So that is why the objects plays a central role in the object oriented programming language. And the notation of a class. So how to notate the class? So class is nothing but you will be having a class name, for example class ABC. Okay, within that you are going to specify the variables, and then you are going to specify the procedures. So and then you are going to end up with the flower braces and putting a semicolon, right? So a class notation is also a very important thing. Why? Because so it consists of a class name and you will be having a class keyword, and within that you are going to mention the variables, and then you are going to follow with the procedures. So writing a neat classes also gives you the good programming, or means object oriented programming. So that is why the notation of a class is also a feature. And then coming to the abstract specification of the functionality. So I told you the data abstraction, it is going to provide you the data abstraction. So each and every functionality, each and every operations or procedures are kept in a different modules, and it is going to provide you the abstract way of representation of a data or a function. So that is why, so it is a much important in object oriented programming, that is it is going to provide the abstract abstract specification functionality to the programming. The next is a language to define a system. So in order to define the language, so you are going to use a UML notation, Unified Modeling Language. Okay, so that is Unified Modeling Language. You can use this UML to represent object oriented notation. So this we are going to study in the second module. So that completely uses the UML language, means representation with respect to the diagrams. So you will be having use case diagrams, sequence diagrams, and UML representation diagrams. Okay, so in order to represent this object oriented language, I am going to use the UML language, UML representations. And coming to the standard solution. So in order to get the standard solution for the problem you are facing in object oriented design, you can go for the design pattern. That is what our subject. So if you find any of the problems in designing object oriented concepts, you can go through the design patterns. You have plenty of design patterns, so as the templates, you can use the templates as a solution for your problems. So that is why I have taken standard solutions. So it is going to avail a design pattern as a solutions. And then analysis process to model a system means here, so when you are going to analyze a system or a process, it is going to give you the conceptual model. Conceptual model is nothing but a outline, a blueprint you can actually sketch before designing or before implementing any of the software. So usually you are not going to directly write the program, or you are not going to write the coding directly. So what you are going to do first, you are going to sketch the abstract view, how I should start. So when I need to write the variables, functions, methods, how to call that function, this function, how to interface another class with this class. So all these things you need to sketch before, and then you start writing the coding, right? So that is why this process helps you, means object oriented process helps you to analyze the process and to design the conceptual models. Okay. And the last key concept of this object oriented languages, that is extensibility and the adaptability. So it is nothing but inheritance. Inheritance. So, this inheritance is almost repeated in the complete 5 modules. So, why? Because the subject is focuses on the object oriented designs. So, that is why inheritance is repeated often and then. So, here, so extendability is nothing but you are going to reuse the parent class in a subclass or in a child class, in a children class, right. So, it is the way of extending the features, providing the features, right. So, reusing the features that is present, and the adaptability is nothing but incremental approach. So, this is going to tell us incremental approach. This adaptability is going to tell us a incremental approach, means I told you this object oriented program is going to divide a program completely into a models. So, modules, right. So, each and every modules act upon their own procedures, data and everything. So, in this particular modules you can actually add up the designs and you can go on adding the new features when and where necessity is there. So, that is why I am written here. So, that is why it is going to use the incremental approach. So, you can add up the features where and all it is necessary. So, these are all the features, these are all the 7 features. So, that is going to help you to understand the object oriented designs. So, this is an important topic, you just focus on this one. After studying the key features of the object oriented programming, so you have some other related topics. It is important for 1 marks questions. So, other related concepts, first one is a modular design and encapsulation. So, here we are going to see what is modular design, what is the encapsulation. So, we are going to see the definitions here. So, here in the modular design, it is going to have the different modules, they are going to be in a one system, in a large one system. So, how it is going to be designed? So, each and every modules are created separately, okay. So, they are independent modules and they are brought together and they are made as a large systems, okay. So, and we are going to integrate together, we are going to perform testing on that one and then we are going to access it. So, that is known as a modular design. So, each and every data for each module there will be a separate data and the procedures. So, that contains one module and the same way it will be repeated with the different modules. So, all together these modules will be clubbed and they are going to be integrated. So, then after integrating there can be performance of the testing conditions and then it is allowed to use with the other modules or another classes which is being integrated same way as a modular design. So, that is why I have taken a key point, that is putting together large system. So, large distinct systems. Why? Because those are all completely independent modular designs. So, those are all taken together, integrated together. So, what is this one? Encapsulation. So, encapsulation you already know, it is going to hide the details. So, means it is not going to expose the implementation details. So, that is what the encapsulation you already know. In order to provide the feature, we are going to have the concept called the ADT, abstract data types. So, here for the abstract data types, you can use the primitive data types that we are going to use, that is the int, float, char and all. So, these are all nothing but it is going to provide you the way. So, that is means it is going to tell you it is a type of int. So, this data is a float, this data is a char, and it is not going to give you the representation how the int is being implemented, how the char is being implemented in the back end. So, it is not going to give you the representations, right. So, it is just going to focuses on, that is it is going to be the complete encapsulated. So, int is a complete encapsulated format, float is encapsulated format. So, it is not going to allow you to know about the implementation details of the integer format or a float format. So, that is why I have taken abstract data type as an example for the encapsulations. So, which includes that one. So, the primitive data types, okay. So, that is a small definitions of the modular design and the encapsulation, and the same other related concept. Second one is a cohesion and the coupling. So, two different definitions, cohesion and the coupling. So, first one is a cohesion I have written here. So, here it is going to tell us how the entities, okay, how the entities within a module they are going to work. So, entities are nothing but the object I told you, right. So, within module, so within one module, how the entities are going to work together, okay. So, whether they are going to work equally, whether they are going to be distinguished, whether they are relatable, reliable. So, yeah, all these features features are going to be focused here. So cohesion is going to be reduced when you have a different kinds of data set assigned to the entities. Means when you are assigning the object with the different sets of data, so each and every object will work in different ways. So then we can tell the cohesion is less. Okay, so that you can tell here. Cohesion is less when different data is used. So that is, so when the cohesion is less, so you have used the different kinds of data sets to objects, means entities are working on a different kinds of data sets. When you assign the same set of data to a object within a module, so it is going to be the I cohesion. So you can just tell the opposite of this one. So cohesion will be I when the objects or entities within a module are assigned the same work. Okay, when they are assigned with the different kinds of work, there is a cohesion with a less concept. Okay, so moving forward with coupling. So coupling is going to tell us so how dependent the modules are. So how dependent modules are with each other or one another. So here, so it is going to tell us within a module how the entities are going to work, within a one box how the objects are going to work. So that is a cohesion. So coupling is how the modules are dependent to each other. So how they are going to depend means they are going to depend on the work, or they are going to accept their input, they are going to expect their output. So this is how they are going to be dependent on each other. If they are completely dependent on their internal elements, okay, so if they are completely dependent on the internal elements, it is bit difficult to change the concept. Means if you want to do the incremental changes, if you want to provide any of the features later in the design, it's not possible. Why? Because you are completely using that internal state of another module. So that is bit difficult. If you are only focusing, or if you are only dependent on the interfaces of the different module, then you can actually do the changes in the later stages. Okay. So in the coupling concept, so in coupling concept, you are going to decide how the modules are dependent on each other. So dependency can be with the two types. So it can be one, it can be dependent on the internal elements, or it can dependent on the interfaces. If it depend on the interfaces, I can do the changes easily, but if it dependent on the internal states, I cannot do the changes means very fast. So it is very difficult to change the things that is present, because they are completely dependent. So avoid the dependency, so then the coupling will be more. Okay, so that is the definition of a cohesion in the coupling. And next is a modifiability and the testability. So modifiability is nothing but how well you can actually modify your designs or implementation. So that is why I have taken here adaptable design. So adaptable design means what? It is going to provide you the incremental changes. Means whenever the versions comes, new versions comes, or changes come to a software, you can incorporate it. Means you can go on with the changes. So it allows you, the software allows you to update the versions or the updations, right? So that is a one feature. So that is a one feature of the modifiability. So you can easily modify, you can easily adapt to a changes using incremental approach. In a layer by layer, you can actually go with the designs. And that is next is testability. Testability is nothing but how well I can test the designs. So you can see here I have written a practical feasibility. Practical feasibility is nothing but, so after designing a software, after writing a code or a class or anything, so after writing a programming, so you should actually go with a practical usage of that particular software. Otherwise, how we are going to analyze whether it is working correctly or not? So after writing any programs or a software, so you need to value it, or you need to verify it by using the practical application. So check it with the feasibility of the same procedures or a software. So that is the definition of this testability and the modifiability. So it comes in other related concepts. So this can be asked for 1 marks or 2 marks. Moving to the last topic of the module, that is benefits and drawbacks of the paradigm. So, here paradigm is nothing but the object oriented programming language. Is going to focus on the benefits and drawbacks of the object oriented programming. So, first he has specified the benefits. So, what is the first benefits? So, it is going to reflect the entities in application systems. So, application systems are nothing but your software, right? So, software system, it is going to represent the real time entities. So, means you can actually write the programming or you can actually code according to the real world environment. So, you can find the solution using the entities and the classes, that is object and the classes. So, it is going to represent or it is going to reflect the entities in your application systems or in a software system. So, that is an first advantage. And the second is a reuse of the existing software. So, this is actually important benefit of the object oriented programming language, that is inheritance. So, it allows you to reuse the software. So, that is true. So, when you can just see, so we are using so many software nowadays, each and every software. So, it is going to it is going to be updated with the new versions. The same software will be there and is going to give us updations monthly, weekly or yearly, like that is going to give updations, right? So, we are going to update. We are not actually removing the software and reinstalling it. So, we are just giving the update. So, the new features will be added up, incremental approach will be followed. So, means it is reusing the concept, already it is there and then I am going to give some slight changes to it. So, that is why I have taken reuse of existing the software. So, that is nothing but your inheritance concept. And easy to accommodate the changes. Yes, when you are going to use the object oriented programming language, it allows you to adopt the changes easily. So, it follows the incremental approach, each and everything is designed into a modules. So, you can take one module and do a changes and then you can go with another module. So, do a changes, it will not reflect in another. So, easily you can actually do the changes to a object oriented programming language compared to the procedure oriented language. And ability to isolate the changes, that is connected to this one. So, just now I told you. So, whenever you want, you can change the modules, because each and every modules are in a different way. So, they are connected through the interfaces. So, or through the classes or through objects also. So, when you want to do some changes, so it is going to be isolated, it is going to apply it for one single module. So, that is what the isolate the changes means. It is not going to be reflected in another module. So, you can also design like that. So, this is not available in another languages which is not following the object oriented concept. So, here actually you can do the changes to one particular module, one particular functionalities. So, which will not affect the other modules or functionalities. So, that is why it is having a ability to do the isolation of changes. And moving forward for the drawbacks of the object oriented concept. So, very first one, so he has taken many layers of the software. So, I told you it is going to follow the incremental approach. So, it is going to allow you, you to incorporate so many versions of the same software. So, that is nothing but different layers. So, we are going to have n numbers of layers. So, that is why he has focused. It contains many numbers of software layers. So, that is a drawback. And the object creation and destruction is very expensive. So, one software or one program means it consists of a huge numbers of object creations. So, each object will be connected to another object. So, plenty of objects are connected to each other. So, while creating an object and destruction of the same object is expensive task, because it is using the means a huge number of memory, resources, everything it is going to be accommodated. So, all we need to release and then we need to work on the destruction of the object. So, that is why, so expensive is nothing but with respect to the object creation and the destructions. And then coming to the third drawback, that is objects have a complex associations. That is also true. Why? Because so it is going to be connected with the different modules, different classes, different objects. So, it is going to have a huge complicated associations, means which are connected together. So, in order to design a software is nothing but a collection of programs. So, each and every program consists of objects. So, you will be having the connections between these objects. So, imagine how complicated it is. So, that is why he has taken, so it will be complex associations objects. Okay. And the last drawback of the object oriented design is, so people find it difficult. So the people are not going to find it difficult. The only people who is going to find difficult is those who do not know the object oriented programming language. So the people who are not exposed to this language, they are going to find it difficult, and remaining people who is exposed to this environment, they find it very easy compared to all other languages. Object oriented languages are more trend nowadays. So procedure oriented also using, but compared to procedure oriented, object oriented languages are much efficient. So that is about the first module concept. So that completes the first module.